Hey there. So if you've ever worked with Geant4, you know it can generate just mountains of data. But let's be honest, getting that data out into a format you can actually use can feel like a whole separate and sometimes frustrating project. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a super powerful tool that makes this whole process way simpler, the Geant4 Analysis Manager.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at the problem it was designed to solve. Then, we'll meet the solution itself, walk through its simple three-step workflow, check out the data tools it gives you, and finally, we'll take a peek at some of the cool advanced stuff it can do.
So before the Analysis Manager came along, saving your simulation data usually meant you had to wrestle with external libraries. You'd have to link your Geant4 application against big packages like root, and that could turn into a real headache with version conflicts, complicated build settings, you know the drill.
And this slide right here, it perfectly shows the before and after. On the left, you've got that old way, a real tangle of external packages and dependencies. But on the right, the new way. Everything is brought inside Geant4 with a single, clean interface. The whole goal was to just get rid of that friction.
So, to cut through all that mess, Geant4 introduced a light analysis tool that's built right into the framework, and that is the G4 Analysis Manager. Think of it as your new one-stop shop for all things data output.
Now, the really crucial thing to get here is that the manager acts like a universal adapter. It gives you this one simple, consistent set of commands, and then it handles all the messy, format-specific details behind the scenes. You speak one language to the manager, and it translates to whatever output format you need.
You know, the manager is implemented as what's called a singleton, and that's really just a fancy way of saying there's only one of it in your entire application. You can get a hold of it from anywhere in your code just by asking for the instance. This makes it incredibly easy to manage your analysis without passing pointers all over the place.
And this is where it gets really flexible. You are not locked into one single format. You can output to root for some really powerful analysis, HDF5 if you've got massive data sets, XML for structured data, or even just a simple CSV file that you can pop open in a spreadsheet.
So how do you actually use this thing? Well, it all comes down to a really simple logical workflow. And the beauty of it is that this whole process maps perfectly onto the natural structure of a Geant4 application you're already familiar with.
It really just boils down to these three steps. First, in your begin of run action, you do all the setup. Create your histograms, open your output file. Second, in your end of event action, which runs after every single event, you fill those objects with data. And finally, in your end of run action, you save it all by writing to the file and closing it. Setup, fill, save. It's that easy to remember.
Okay, so we've got the workflow down, but what can we actually store? Well, the Analysis Manager gives you three main types of data objects that form your analysis toolkit.
This table breaks it down really nicely. You've got histograms for just counting things in bins, perfect for seeing the shape or spectrum of your data. Then you have profiles, which are similar, but instead of just counting, they calculate the mean value of some other variable for each bin. Super useful for things like error analysis. And finally, you've got n-tuples, which are basically your detailed logbook, storing multiple bits of data row by row for every single event. Creating a histogram is just a straightforward single line of code. You give it an internal name, a title for plotting, tell it how many bins you want, and the range. And what's really cool is you can even specify the units, like mega electron volts here, and the manager handles the conversions for you. And filling it? Even easier. Inside your event action, you just call fill h1. You give it the histogram's ID, which is just 0 for the first one you create, and then the variable that holds the value you want to record for that specific event. Now, n-tuples are a little more involved, and that's just because they have more structure. First, you create the n-tuple itself. Then, you define each column you want, one by one, telling it the name and the data type. That D here stands for double. Once you've defined all your columns, you just call finish n-tuple to lock in the structure. Filling an n-tuple pretty much mirrors how you created it. For each event, you fill each column using its ID and the data. Then, after you've filled all the columns for that one event, you call add n-tuple row, and that takes all those values and saves them as one complete entry in your logbook. So, while the manager is designed to be super simple to get started with, don't let that fool you. It is packed with powerful features for when your simulations get more demanding. Let's just take a quick look at what else it can do. One of the biggest features, for sure, is its support for parallel processing. If you're running in multi-threaded mode, it automatically and safely merges the histograms from all the different threads. It also has an analysis reader to easily read the files you create, accumulables for managing simple things like counters, And, my personal favorite, a full set of UI commands. This is a real game changer because it means you can create and configure your analysis from a macro file without ever having to recompile your C++ code. And that really brings us to the most important takeaway here. The G4 Analysis Manager fundamentally changes the relationship between your simulation and your analysis. By integrating them so tightly, it makes sure that the moment your run is finished, your data is already structured, saved, and ready for you to look at. It completely eliminates a whole step from your workflow, letting you get to the exciting part, understanding your results, that much faster.